Hello students! Today we're going to create a word cloud that summarizes some of the main points you guys have learned about in design class this year. We're going to be doing this graphic on wordart.com/create. Technically this is a paid service, but we're going to be saving our work using some slightly unconventional methods because I don't want you guys to feel obligated to create an account with this website because you're only going to use it once. Now, this is a word cloud generator, and as you can see, it has several different words already input right here by default when we go into the wordart.com website. At the bottom, we have the option to customize our word cloud using different shapes and fonts and styles, as you can see here, but we're going to take each one at a time. I'm actually going to show you guys what it looks like when we create a word cloud using the words that were included by default when I access this website. I didn't type these in. I'm actually about to replace them with different words. But when I go and select the visualize button that's in red, it's basically going to start loading for me a sample graphic showing what this word cloud looks like. And that's basically it. You can see that certain words are emphasized, they're using certain colors. We have the ability to go and change all of that momentarily. So I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to start by replacing some of these words with terms that remind me of important topics we covered in design class. You know what? I'm going to make my first word design. I'm going to make my second word maybe hierarchy, because we spent a lot of time discussing visual hierarchy. I'm going to make my third word typography. You guys are obviously going to go and select your own words. And as I go and finish with those words, I can just press enter to type in new words for my word cloud. So maybe it's going to be principles, like our principles of design that we learned about. We spent quite a lot of time discussing, for example, color theory. So maybe that's going to be another term that I'm going to type in here. Now I'm using some very general topics that we discussed this year. If you guys want to be really specific about things that you learned about that made a bigger impact on you, then definitely use those terms when you're creating your word cloud. We were learning how to use Photoshop, so I'm going to make that another term. So you can see I have several different words already by default. Using the default settings, but before I go and start fixing those settings, I'm just going to click visualize and see what my word cloud is looking so far. So you can see it's using some of the same colors as before, the purples and the lime greens. Not particularly fond of those colors, so I'm going to start changing them up pretty soon. I'm just going to continue typing in maybe one or two more words. Other things that we talked about were the necessity of white space in a design, so a design doesn't feel cluttered. I think I'm going to go in and make hierarchy visual hierarchy to be more specific. And let me start visualizing what that's going to look like. Okay, that looks a lot better, in my opinion. If I wanted to finish here, I could by taking a screenshot and submitting that, but I want to spend a little bit more time customizing this word cloud. You can always go in and add more words if necessary. Now you can see that you have the ability to go and click on a color for each and every single word if you want to. If you missed that, all I did was go to where it said color and click where it says default. And then if I wanted to make design stand out by maybe making it a bright red, I could select the red swatch, or maybe just try to drag out a different kind of red from this really beautiful color spectrum that they have available, and click apply. And you can see that when I preview that word, the color was changed for it automatically. If I want to maybe click on a different font, I can go right here where it says font and click on default and start selecting different kinds of fonts to apply to that one distinct word. As you can see, it doesn't let you preview, so you just kind of have to select a random one and see if that's something that's interesting to you. Let me actually click visualize and see the changes. Okay, so I applied that font called Teen Regular, and after I click visualize, it changed so I could see how design was edited. I think I'm just gonna go actually and go back to the default because I don't want to apply just one specific font for one specific word. I think that would be a little bit overkill. I think I want to apply one uniform font through all. So I'm just going to click visualize just so it updates. You could also just undo and maybe select a lighter red for design. You could always go in and using that color hex code site that I had given you guys before, put in specific colors that you may want to use in your word cloud, but right now that's not really that interesting to me. So I'll just use the pre-made swatches. Okay. I can go back and definitely edit the colors momentarily, but first I want to select a shape for my word cloud to be enclosed in, because as you can see right now, it's just an abstract kind of oval. So if I go and click on shapes, I'll see that there's a huge variety of different shapes that I can use to enclose my word clouds. Some of them are going to be a little bit on the silly side, like with these animals and the happy birthday greetings and such. So I think I'm going to go and look under other. And I had previously found this really beautiful rainbow shape that reminded me of our color theory wheel. The color wheel that we always reference when we're trying to make harmonious color schemes. So I'm actually going to go and click on that one to select it. And if you want to see what that looks like, you can go and click visualize again and wait for that to load. So that right there looks much more interesting than the oval from before. You guys can select any particular shape that you think is interesting and that relates to topics we have learned about. I'm going to keep this abstract color wheel formation because I think it definitely goes with the topics that we've covered in this class. Next, I'm going to click on fonts. And finally, I'm able to actually preview what the font looks like before I go and apply it to my color wheel. So as we have learned about before, it's fun to use display fonts, but you don't want to overdo it because it is a little overkill and it does tend to compromise legibility. So you want to select a font that is going to be interesting to you, but it's not going to be completely overwhelming. So for example, this one called Caesar dressing, if I go and I try to visualize that, you'll see that it'll become very overwhelming very quickly. Not only that, but the actual font has nothing to do with the topic that I selected, which is design class. So definitely preview and be a little bit more selective when it comes to the fonts that you use because you don't want it to just completely throw off the vibe of your project. I think I'm actually going to use Bubblegum Sans and I'm going to try to see what that looks like. Okay, that definitely looks a lot better. So I'm going to leave it as is. The benefit of doing the font selection this way is that you'll see that the same font applies uniformly to all the words in your word cloud. But if you decide you don't like that, you can always go back to words and change the font one by one to each of the words in your word cloud. Just going where it says default and selecting from one of these options. The last one we didn't touch on was layout, and it basically goes and presents your words in a different formation. I'm going to actually go and select dancing words to see if that makes any difference. Visualize so I can preview what that looks like. Oh, I see. So you can see that it slightly tilted my words and it looks like they're moving around in a slightly more fun formation. So you guys can go and click on the layout tab and it's going to just tilt your words and have them look like they're moving in different directions. All right, enough is enough. I'm ready to start saving this and to submit it and share it with my classmates. So I could theoretically go to where it says download, but then if I select, for example, PNG, it's gonna have me select from a paid package, and I'm not gonna pay $5 to download a simple color wheel formation word cloud. So instead, I'm gonna use my snip and sketch tool, also snipping tool if you haven't updated your Windows computer. So you would go into your search bar and type up snip, and you'll see either snipping tool or snip and sketch. And this is gonna help you create a screenshot. So I'm gonna select new, and I'm gonna drag out a square around my word cloud. I'm going to click on the Save As button and make sure I save that to my desktop or somewhere where I know I'm going to be able to find it. So I'm going to just call this one Word Cloud. And that's what I'm going to submit to Canvas and share with my classmates. So remember, when you guys are creating your word clouds, get creative, select words that reflect themes or topics that we've went over this year in design. Play around with your shapes, play around with your colors, play around with your fonts, have fun with it. This is just to end the school year and just summarize some of the topics that you guys learned about and that made the biggest impact on you. And I can't wait to see what you guys create. Hit me up if you have any questions.